Well, hello again, and we are back to our series, Remove Environmental Risks from the Transaction. And we have quite a few presentations here, and we always love to appreciate and thank Glenn Special for helping us with that. If you ever want to know who Glenn is, give me a call. He's very special, and he's helping us. So this is number 17 in the series, talking about machine shops. And we are talking here about risks in the transaction, and we mean commercial and industrial real estate transactions. We have over 30 videos in this series, and so this is number 17, and we still have quite a few to go, and we have quite a few behind us. So you are welcome to visit those that are behind us, and you are welcome, of course, to stay with us for those that are coming. We are doing our best to make them short, easy, and interesting and to you, and attract you in a way that is, you will find it very pleasant. I'm quite, how they say, not sensitive, but when I listen to people lecturing me, usually they lose me real quick when they put lots of tables on the screen and lots of verbiage on the screen and talk for long times about the verbiage on the screen. I'm getting lost in a hurry. I don't know about you. So because of this, my personal tendency, I say, well, what is a problem for me may be a problem for others. So I therefore put a lot of pictures in my presentation, and hopefully it will help you as it helps me. I've been doing this, meaning not only the lecture, what I talk to you about in those lectures, in those presentations. I've been doing it since 1988, phase 1 and phase 2 environmental site assessments, contamination cleanup and abatement, and giving those introductory consultations. I've been giving out speeches and lectures, oh my God, since I almost graduated school. I used to be a teacher and a semi-professor in my time. And and even then back, I never talked to my students too much without showing them pictures. So I hope we will have a good time together. So I've been doing it since 1988, the cleanup and the phase 1 and the phase 2 environmental site assessments. And the SBA, this is this enormous giant, US, United States Small Business Administration. They have their Bible, and this is probably even bigger than the Bible that we have. It's called SOP 5010-6, and it is a standard operating procedure for the SBA how to manage their business. And in this huge Bible, like other Bibles, they have books. And one of those books is chapter 6, Other Core Requirement. And inside this book, they have a sub-book, if you wish, which is called Environmental Policies and Procedures. And because the SBA have a policy that all, no exceptions, all commercial transactions first have to be, how they call it, sorted out. All environmental have to be commercial industrial transactions first have to be sorted out on a certain checklist as to whether or not they need to go through environmental investigations. And guess what? Many, if not most of them, need to go through these environmental investigations. And so they have this chapter there about environmental policies and procedures and submission of environmental investigation reports. And in it, they say that all transaction screens, phase 1 and phase 2, environmental site assessments must, bold letters, must be performed by an environmental professional. And who or what is an environmental professional is defined by another agency of our government, and it is the Environmental Protection Agency, and they define who is an environmental professional. There is a definition, and if you go into EPA, environmental professional, you will run into this long, how to say, chapter telling you who or what is an environmental professional. And in it, they will tell you who qualifies as an environmental professional, what kind of certification or license they need, what kind of education they have to go through, what experience and what kind of relevant experience. Not every experience qualifies you as an environmental professional, right? You might have been graduated as, I don't know, as a nuclear scientist, but that may not qualify you as an environmental professional. It has to have a relevant experience. Well, I'm happy to tell you that I qualify as environmental professional by reasons of graduating in mechanical engineering in 1964, additional credit in nuclear and chemical engineering. The next 20 years of my career, I spent with nuclear reactors, with chemical plants, refineries, and eventually arrived in California, like many others. Arrived here. I was not born here, arrived here, and became a general engineering contractor in 1989 with a special classification called the HAZ, Hazardous Substance Removal Certification. So since 1989, I have been certified and permitted and licensed to deal with hazardous substances as a contractor, not only as a professional, not as an engineer, with an engineering degree, but also as a contractor, hazardous substance removal certification. And this was one of the, this certification only came about in around 1989, and I'm proud to say that I was one of the very first one to get certified by it. And also at one time was registered by the state of California as environmental assessor level 2, and in registering me and in recognizing me as environmental assessor level 2, here we have REA2, registered environmental assessor 2, they recognize that I've completed all requirements for the most stringent level of environmental registration provided by the state, that I qualified as a project manager who can conduct all assessments and investigations, plus issue cleanup opinions to the government especially, evaluate risk from contamination, and manage the cleanup of contaminated sites. So that's a lot, and I'm very proud of it, but I should also be honest and modest and tell you that I'm not the only one. There are quite a few very good, highly qualified environmental professionals out there, and I'm proud to belong to this nice professional group. Here is a recent project. We have done it in recent years. I think we completed it back in 2019, I believe. And it was a Terminix facility, pesticide facility. Lots of here was contaminated, the soil, the concrete, impregnated with pesticides. My client wanted to turn it into a residential occupancy. They eventually constructed on it a 16-unit apartment building, beautiful apartment building. It's now in the last stage of being finished. And they had to clean it up to the most stringent and most strict requirements of the California EPA, Department of Toxic Substances Control. So we cleaned it up, and in the process we pulled out all this concrete that you see here that was impregnated with pesticides, and in order to take it to the landfill we had to break it to small pieces. And guess what? When you hit on the concrete, here you see this huge hydraulic hammer. When you hit on the concrete and to break it up, you get clouds of dust. Okay? That's the nature of the beast. You get a cloud of dust coming out at you, and this dust is loaded with pesticides, and it is a flying dust, and it flies in the air, and then you get into the person's nostrils, or settles on their skin, or get into their nose, or get into their open mouth, and it gets into the body, and those pesticides are carcinogenic. So we had to protect not only us and the workers on the site, not the least, even more importantly, we had attention on the neighbors around here. These guys, these innocent children and adults living around, we could not allow them to inhale flying dust that is contaminated with pesticide. It was a major responsibility and a major liability for us, for my client who owned the place, and for me and the crew who managed to clean up. So we didn't take it lightly. We surrounded the site with monitors that monitored every speck of dust that came in the air, and if there was a little bit over the most stringent limit, right away we shut down the operation, and we kept monitoring until the level of dust went down. So we finished this project. We took out about 1,000 tons of contaminated concrete, took out about over 1,000 cubic yards of contaminated soil. Right now, there is this beautiful, beautiful building there. It's in the neighborhood called Silver Lake in Los Angeles. It's a neighborhood that used to be controlled by gangs, and right now it became like a high crime neighborhood there. And I'm sure that our client will do very, very well with what they did there with the apartment building. They invested cleaning it up close to $500,000. I'm sure that they made many, many times over with a beautiful project that they have just completed. The René Descartes, a lot of our current day, present day mathematics belongs with René Descartes. I hope I pronounce his name right, René Descartes. And he said, boy, he lived to be 54. That's pretty young. 1596 to 1650. But he did a lot in such a short time. And he said, each problem that I solved became a rule which served afterwards to solve other problems. So the basic concept here, let us not be afraid of problems, okay? Let's take every problem that we take and solve becomes a foundation from where we solve the next problem. So problems is good. And as a matter of fact, I welcome problems. I love problems. And I think that most of us, I'm not unique. I mean, when we don't have enough problems, we generate them, don't we? We go and play cards, we play football, we play basketball, we play volleyball, I don't know. Whatever games we play, we just want to generate problems so that we can solve them. Problems is the, I think, is the essence of life, but now I'm becoming a philosopher rather than staying an engineer. So the subject of the day is machine shops. Machine shops we're dealing with machine shops in our daily phase 1s and phase 2 environmental site assessments. When we do a phase 1 and we see that the property had a history of a machine shop, then we raise a flag. And by raising a flag, we say, look, guys, there used to be a machine shop here. We don't know if it is contaminated, but machine shops used to use chemicals that once they got into the environment, they were toxic chemicals. And once in the environment, they become contaminants of the environment. One of those toxic chemicals is our old PCEs that I just mentioned a few slides back. They used PCE as a solvent to clean up and degrease here's those beautiful parts that they generate here at one time or another, because they use a lot of oil in the generation of those parts, and they need, as a final product, they need to take the oil away. So they put them into degreasing machine, and they use those solvents. Here you have those beautiful wheels that they make in the machine shop. Here you have those presses that cut pieces of metal. Here is a guy drilling into this piece of whatever product. Here is a lathe where they shape up pieces of metal. all of these machines, all of these operations, they use solvents. So when we see machine shop in the history of a property, we see it in our phase one, we raise a flag and we say, well, we think you need to check on the soil and see if there is some contamination there. Here is another picture of a machine shop. We say contaminants, solvents, and oil. And this is a historic machine shop. You see all of this historic machinery. What you don't see here, of course, are all these solvents that they use to remove the oil from the parts that they fabricate. Here is, you see here, this a tank, a small tank. It is a degreaser. Here is, you see, a machine part in it, and it's being put into this solvent. And I'm not sure what they do. I think they may agitate. Makes sense. They may agitate the solvent either by air bubbles or by other means. They agitate it so it will take the grease away. And those tanks, those tanks leak, and or they spill. And you don't need to spill a lot from those solvents, because when you spill them onto the ground, and in most cases, here you see this surface is kind of cracked. In many of those shops, the surface is cracked. So then through the cracks, it goes down into the environment, and then it evaporates and migrates as a toxic vapor in the soil. Here is another machine shop. This one, it's most of the machinery is still there. This is a project that I'm still involved with. And you see all of these machines, they are not very clean. And when you get to this place, you get a very heavy smell from these machines. They have not been used for a long time. The owner passed away, but the machines are still there. And when I went there with my indoor air sampler and I sampled the air, because I went there to do a general inspection and I got a headache. I went out from this place and I was nauseated. And I said to the owner, look, you look pale to me as well, and you feel sick. I think there is something there. And we went there with our air samplers and we sampled the air, and we found several carcinogens in the air that we were inhaling. And this is an old machine shop. So what is in the air might very well have gone into the ground. So once it gets into the ground, it evaporates, and it gets into the, it evaporates and gets into the building. And this is, so it's not only the source here, it's not only the source that we are concerned about. Yes, if we have a property and there was a machine shop on the property, we are concerned. But if we have these buildings here, and we see an operation next to them that use chlorinated solvents, we are then concerned about vapors migrating outside under these buildings. So this is our chapter for machine shops, and you are welcome to call me at 323-899-5001. Down here, email me at amia@amirdini.com. Check our website, amirdini.com. I would love to talk to you. I'm very interested in problems. Even if I may not be able to solve you, at least I will be able to direct you in a good direction, and I don't charge for directing you. I may charge if I get really involved deeply in the project, but to give you some guidance and to guide you into the right way, even if it's not going into my providing services, this is fine with me. Just call me and I'll be happy to talk to you. Thank you very much.